Forget what you think you know about Panama. This isn't just a canal cutting through the jungle. It's a country where a dictator was taken down with rock music, where the sun can rise over one ocean and set over another without you ever leaving the country, and where a single kilogram of coffee has sold for more than a luxury car. Add in tax-free living, a rainforest inside the capital city, and sports legends who came out of nowhere, and you'll start to understand why Panama is one of the most underrated countries on the planet. These are 15 insane, unbelievable, and absolutely true facts about Panama, and by the end, you'll probably be checking flights. Fact number 1, the country without a military. Panama is one of the very few countries on earth with no standing army, a fact that surprises most people who don't know its post-dictatorship history. After the United States invaded Panama in December of 1989 and captured military strongman Manuel Noriega, the country took an unprecedented step. It dissolved its armed forces entirely. By 1990, the military institutions were gone, and in 1994, that decision was written directly into the national constitution, making it illegal to ever form a permanent army again. In its place, Panama relies on a national police force and a border patrol focused on public safety, disaster response, and counter-narcotics work rather than combat. The reasoning was simple. Throughout Panama's history, a strong military had repeatedly meant instability and dictatorship, and the country ultimately chose peace over force. Panama still maintains limited security cooperation with the United States, and in the unlikely event of an invasion, it would lean on international alliances and treaties for protection. In a region that has seen more than its share of coups and unrest, Panama's demilitarized stance stands out as both radical and quietly reassuring. Fact number 2, 2 flags, 2 freedoms. Panama is one of the rare countries that celebrates 2 separate Independence Days tied to 2 different colonial powers. On November 3rd, Panamanians commemorate their break from Colombia in 1903, an event that happened with quiet backing from the United States, which had its own interest in eventually building the Panama Canal. But the story goes back even further. On November 28th, the country also honors its original independence from Spain, which came in 1821. After breaking free from the Spanish crown, Panama voluntarily joined Gran Colombia, a short-lived South American republic that once included modern-day Colombia, Venezuela, and Ecuador. This layered independence history reflects Panama's complicated journey, first a colony, then a reluctant province of a larger union, and finally an assertive independent nation. Both holidays are marked with parades, marching bands, and genuine national pride, and the entire month of November in Panama tends to feel like one long celebration of freedom and identity. Fact number 3, the pirate who burned the capital. In a story that sounds like it was pulled straight from a pirate film, Panama City was once burned to the ground by an actual real-life pirate. In 1671, the notorious Welsh privateer Henry Morgan led an assault of roughly 1,200 men against Panama Viejo, the original Spanish settlement and a key hub for gold shipments bound for Spain. The city was so thoroughly looted and destroyed that it was abandoned for good. Spanish authorities relocated the capital a few miles southwest and founded Casco Viejo, a fortified new city built with thick defensive walls meant to withstand future pirate raids. Today, the ruins of Panama Viejo still stand as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with crumbling church towers and stone foundations hinting at the chaos of that attack. And in a twist that feels almost unfair, Henry Morgan was never punished for the raid. He was later knighted by King Charles II and went on to become the Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica. Panama's current capital exists exactly where it does today because a pirate burned the original one to the ground. Fact number 4, the world's first transcontinental railroad. Long before the Panama Canal existed, Panama was already home to a groundbreaking engineering achievement. The Panama Railroad, completed in 1855, was the first true transcontinental railroad in the world, finished nearly 15 years before the famous Transcontinental Railroad in the United States. It allowed gold prospectors, merchants, and travelers to cut months off their journey between the Atlantic and Pacific coasts by crossing the isthmus by train instead of sailing all the way around South America. The achievement came at a brutal human cost. Thousands of workers are believed to have died during construction, largely from yellow fever and malaria, in a tropical environment that earned the grim nickname the Fever Coast. Despite the toll, the railroad became a massive financial success, especially during the California Gold Rush, when demand for a faster coast-to-coast route exploded. A version of that same railway still operates today, carrying both passengers and freight alongside the Panama Canal, offering a ride that feels like traveling straight through history, jungle pressing in on both sides. Fact number 5, the country with no paper money of its own. Panama has its own official currency, the Balboa. But here's the twist, it doesn't print any paper bills. Since 1904, shortly after gaining independence from Colombia, Panama has used the United States dollar for all of its paper currency. The Balboa exists only as coins, minted to match American coins exactly in size and weight, so they slide seamlessly into vending machines and cash registers built for U.S. currency. You'll regularly get change that mixes Panamanian coins with American ones, but you will never see a Panamanian printed banknote in circulation. Technically, the Balboa and the U.S. dollar are pegged 1-to-1, and both are legal tender, but in practice, cash in Panama is almost entirely American green. This arrangement gives the country a stable, inflation-resistant economy, but it also means Panama can't print its way out of debt or devalue its own currency, a genuine trade-off. It's one of the rare places in the world where a nation has effectively handed over its monetary printing press and still thrives economically. Fact number 6, the coffee that shattered world records. In the misty highlands of Boquete, Panama grows one of the most coveted and expensive coffees on the planet, Panama Geisha. This isn't your average morning brew. At the Best of Panama auction in 2025, a washed geisha lot grown at Hacienda La Esmeralda sold for a jaw-dropping $30,204 US per kilogram, smashing the previous world record and pulling in more than $600,000 for a single 20-kilogram lot. Originally native to Ethiopia, the geisha variety found a second life in Panama's volcanic soil, where the altitude, humidity, and meticulous processing techniques transform it into something closer to a fine wine than traditional coffee, floral, bright, and strikingly delicate. Buyers from Japan, South Korea, China, and the Gulf now compete fiercely for every batch, sometimes paying well over $100 for a single cup at elite cafes. Who would have guessed that one of the smallest countries in Latin America would become the undisputed capital of ultra-premium coffee? Fact number 7, where the sun rises on the Pacific and sets on the Atlantic. Panama is the only country in the world where, thanks to a quirk of geography, you can watch the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean and set over the Atlantic in a single day. It sounds geographically impossible, but the twisted-shaped curve of the Isthmus of Panama bends the country in such a way that its southern coastline actually faces east, while its northern coastline faces west. At the narrowest point near the Canal zone, the distance between the two oceans shrinks to under 50 miles, and that unusual orientation is exactly what makes this rare spectacle possible. On a clear day, ambitious travelers can start their morning watching the sunrise over the Pacific and reach the Caribbean coast by evening for sunset, a genuine bucket list challenge for locals and visitors alike. It's one of the strangest and most delightful quirks of geography anywhere on the map. Fact number 8, a rainforest inside the capital city. Panama City isn't just home to the most modern skyline in Central America. It's also the only capital city in the world with a protected tropical rainforest sitting inside its urban boundaries. It's called Parque Natural Metropolitano, a sprawling nature reserve of roughly 570 acres located just minutes from the downtown financial district. Here, you can go from glass skyscrapers to howler monkeys in the same afternoon. The park is home to more than 200 species of birds, along with sloths, anteaters, toucans, and other wildlife, all living within the city limits. Locals and tourists alike hike its shaded trails, some of which open up to panoramic views over the skyline and the Panama Canal in the distance. While most global capitals paved over their wild spaces long ago, Panama preserved this living green lung right in the middle of its biggest city, proof that nature and urban progress don't always have to be enemies. Fact number 9: one mountain, two oceans, infinite views. At the summit of Volcan Baru, Panama's tallest peak, standing roughly 11,400 feet or about 3,475 meters above sea level, you can witness something almost no other place on Earth offers: a simultaneous view of both the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. On an especially clear morning, golden sunrise light spreads over the Pacific to the south, while the Caribbean glows blue to the north, all visible from the same mountaintop. This dormant volcano in the Cherokee Highlands is a favorite destination for serious hikers and early risers willing to make the cold, steep overnight trek to reach the summit before dawn. Locals call the experience El Mirador de Deux Mers, the lookout of two seas. From the top, you can also spot the Continental Divide, dense rainforest canopy, and on the clearest days, even neighboring Costa Rica in the distance. It's not just Panama's highest point, it's one of the most rewarding sunrise hikes in the Americas. Fact number 10: the country hurricanes can't touch. In a region famous for devastating tropical storms, Panama is something of a meteorological outlier. It sits almost entirely outside the Atlantic hurricane belt, and while its Caribbean neighbors regularly brace for major storms and dangerous storm surges, Panama enjoys remarkable year-round protection. This isn't luck, it's geography. The country sits close enough to the equator that the Coriolis effect, the force that gives hurricanes their spin, simply isn't strong enough there to generate a full-blown hurricane, and as a result, Panama has no recorded history of a direct hit from a major hurricane. For expats, retirees, and remote workers weighing options across Central America, this is a genuinely huge advantage. There's little need for storm shutters, evacuation plans, or sky-high insurance premiums tied to hurricane risk. Panama does have a rainy season, running roughly from May through November, but it mostly brings warm afternoon downpours rather than destructive storms. In a region increasingly shaped by extreme weather, Panama's built-in geographic shield is a quietly enormous asset. Fact number 11: more birds than the US and Canada combined. Despite being smaller than the state of South Carolina, Panama is home to more than 900 documented bird species, more than the United States and Canada combined. That makes it one of the premier bird-watching destinations on the planet, regularly outperforming countries many times its size in both diversity and density. The secret lies in its geography. Panama acts as a narrow biological land bridge connecting the ecosystems of North and South America, allowing species from both continents to migrate through, mingle, and thrive in one relatively small corridor. From the shimmering resplendent quetzal in the cloud forests, to the enormous harpy eagle, one of the largest raptors on Earth, to the toucans echoing through the lowland jungle, Panama is a living aviary. Its position along major migratory flyways also makes it a seasonal hotspot, and it's entirely possible to spot colorful tanagers or hummingbirds from a balcony in downtown Panama City. For serious birders, trails like Pipeline Road in Soberania National Park are considered bucket list territory. Fact number 12. The lockdown that split society by gender. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Panama rolled out one of the most unusual and controversial quarantine strategies anywhere in the world: a gender-based lockdown system. Women were permitted to leave home on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Men were permitted out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. No one was allowed outside on Sundays. The stated goal was to cut public crowding roughly in half, but the policy quickly drew international attention and sharp criticism. It raised serious concerns for transgender and non-binary residents, some of whom reported harassment or detainment when their gender identity didn't align with the sex listed on their government identification. Enforcement was strict, with fines, arrests, and aerial monitoring by helicopters used to track compliance in major cities. Panama's government defended the measure as a public health necessity, while human rights organizations criticized it as discriminatory. In a pandemic full of unusual policies worldwide, Panama's gender split lockdown remains one of the most socially unusual public health measures ever implemented. Fact number 13, the dictator defeated by rock music. In one of the strangest episodes of modern psychological warfare, Panama's former dictator, Manuel Noriega, was effectively blasted out of hiding using rock music. After the United States invaded Panama in December of 1989 to remove him from power, Noriega fled to the Vatican Embassy in Panama City and sought diplomatic sanctuary. American forces surrounded the compound with massive speakers and blared deafening rock music around the clock, with a playlist reportedly including Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, and, fittingly, Van Halen's song Panama. The relentless noise campaign became a genuine case study in psychological pressure tactics. After roughly 10 days of the sonic siege, Noriega finally surrendered on January 3rd, 1990, bringing one of the most surreal standoffs in modern military history to a close. The tactic has since been studied in military and negotiation strategy courses as an example of sound used deliberately as a weapon. In the end, a brutal dictator was brought to justice, not with bullets, but largely with power chords and blaring guitar solos. Fact number 14, a bureaucratic paradise for expats. Panama isn't just naturally beautiful, it's also one of the easiest countries in the world to legally move to, thanks to its foreigner-friendly residency programs. The most famous of these is the Friendly Nations Visa, launched in 2012, which offers a fast track to permanent residency for citizens of dozens of countries, including the United States, Canada, most of Europe, and several nations across Asia. Then there's the Pensionado program, frequently ranked among the best retirement visas on earth, which grants lifelong residency to retirees who can show as little as $1,000 a month in pension income. Pensionado holders also receive substantial discounts, often up to 50% on flights, entertainment, medical bills, restaurant meals, and even certain utility bills. Unlike many countries' immigration systems, Panama's process is relatively transparent and fast, and it doesn't require fluency in Spanish or giving up your original citizenship. Combined with political stability, a dollarized economy, and tax breaks on foreign income, it's easy to see why thousands of foreigners relocate to Panama every single year. Fact number 15, a tiny nation with sports legends that shook the world. For a country of roughly 4.5 million people, Panama has produced an extraordinary number of global sports icons. Leading the list is Mariano Rivera, the legendary New York Yankees closer who in 2019 became the first player in history to be unanimously elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame, a distinction not even Babe Ruth or Jackie Robinson achieved. Baseball isn't Panama's only claim to fame either. Roberto Manos de Piedra Duran, the boxing legend whose nickname translates to Hands of Stone, held world titles across 4 different weight classes and is widely regarded as one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in boxing history. His ferocity in the ring and larger-than-life personality outside of it made him a national hero and a global icon. A new generation of Panamanian talent continues that legacy in Major League Baseball today. For a country this small, Panama's sports legacy punches remarkably far above its weight. Bonus fact, life in Panama, low taxes, ocean views, and surprisingly affordable living. Life in Panama can be surprisingly affordable, especially compared to the United States or much of Europe. A modest but comfortable lifestyle is achievable on around $1,200 a month, while a more comfortable expat lifestyle, complete with ocean views and the occasional night out, tends to run somewhere between $1,800 and $2,500 monthly. Rent for a modern one-bedroom apartment in Panama City typically ranges from $600 to $1,200 US dollars, depending on the neighborhood, while smaller cities like David or beach towns like Las Tablas offer quality apartments for as little as $300 to $500 a month. Groceries are reasonably priced too. A week's worth of staples like rice, beans, vegetables, chicken, and eggs might run $30 to $45, and a meal at a local restaurant typically costs around $5 to $7, climbing to $10 or $15 in more touristy areas. Public transportation is remarkably cheap. City buses cost around 25 cents a ride, and the Panama City Metro, clean, modern, and efficient, runs about 35 cents per trip. Panama also imposes no tax on income earned outside the country, which means digital nomads, retirees, and remote professionals generally keep everything they earn abroad. Healthcare is another strong point, with private hospitals in Panama City that rival U.S. standards health insurance plans starting around $75 to $150 a month, and out-of-pocket doctor visits typically running $20 to $50. Some of the most popular spots for expats include Boquete, known for its cool mountain climate and large international community, Coronado, a coastal town within easy reach of the capital, and Pedasí, a quiet, growing beach village on the Azuero Peninsula. And before you leave, don't miss Bocas del Toro's turquoise waters, the colonial charm of Casco Viejo, and of course, the sheer engineering marvel of the Panama Canal itself. For a country where you can sip world record coffee in the mountains and surf the Pacific in the very same day, Panama offers a rare and genuine mix of affordability, modern comfort, and authentic Central American character. If you enjoyed this journey through Panama, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We drop stories like this every week. And if you've ever dreamed of living under palm trees with tax-free income and sunrise views over the ocean, well, Panama might just be your next stop.